All right, before we go into Nitro, I want to mention two things right here. So, last week, I talked about how Russo wanted to get rid of Ric Flair. And for the record, Vince Russo is insistent that he did not want to get rid of Ric Flair. So, all I know is that when Flair was written off TV at the time, the impression that he got was that he was going to be out of wrestling for a long time and he would probably come back as an authority figure. That's all I know. Obviously, he did come back and he feuded with Russo later, and they even had that hair match. Was it Russo that shaved Flair's head? Am I incorrect about that?
I think you're right.
I can't remember. But anyway, Russo says the idea. This is what he says. He says the idea was he was going to get rid of all of the legends one by one, and then he was going to bring them all back together. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Well, that always works.
Well,
Yeah, didn't they try this like 6 times?
that's the thing. Like, they were going to do that later, and I think Bischoff had the same idea when WCW was dying. I think that Russo is conflating things that he remembers here. Because if you watch Nitro, with the exception of what they're doing with Hennig, where if he gets pinned, he's out, there is no indication they're getting rid of all of these legends. These legends are all over the show.
Do Nash and Hall count as legends yet?
They should.
They should.
For WCW, yeah.
The only guy that they got rid of was they buried Ric Flair in the desert.
Hogan's gone.
So all I know is what I remember people telling me at the time, what I wrote in the newsletter, and what Dave wrote in the Observer. And if it was incorrect, I apologize, but that was certainly the impression I got there. The other thing that I want to clarify, out of fairness, Craig last week asked a question about Russo and whether or not he was the head writer.
Yes.
And I said that he was never the head writer, okay? Now,
Of Raw or Nitro?
Raw.
Raw or Nitro? Well, Raw.
Raw, okay.
So, here's the thing, okay? In 1997, and 1998, and 1999, there were all sorts of people who were in charge of helping to put the Raw television together. There was Russo, there was Ed Ferrara, obviously, there was Jim Ross, there was Jim Cornette when he was there, there was Vince McMahon, all right? Mm-hmm. Since that time, there have been a bunch of people that have been called the head writer. David Lagana, Ryan Ward, Road Dogg, Russo, whoever. My point was, at the end of the day, the guy who decides what's going on TV and what's not going on TV is Vince McMahon. It's always been Vince McMahon. It's been Vince McMahon at every period. It's Vince McMahon today. Vince McMahon was the guy in charge of the Evolution pay-per-view. That's what I mean when I say he was the head writer, okay? To be fair to Russo, he probably spent more hours writing television than anybody except Vince McMahon. That's why he quit. He was burnt out. He was sick of it. He was tired. And so he quit.
Wait a second.
He thought it would be an easier schedule working for WCW.
So he quit to get another job
Well, basically, yeah.
that he was sick of.
But the point of, if you have anybody who works for Vince, Lance, you could probably talk about this. You're expected to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the thing. He worked very, very hard as a writer, and he was a guy who was in charge of, he worked harder than anybody writing television. But at the end of the day, he's not the head guy. The head guy is Vince. It'll always be Vince until Vince is in the grave. And then for all I know, Vince may even have a bunch of shit written down that he wants done after he's dead. So, just wanted to get that out of the way.
His will is just a year's worth of scripts.
Yeah. 5 years worth of storylines.
Yes. So, WCW Monday Nitro number 215, also November 1st, 1999. Bret Hart confronts the Outsiders. He's pissed at them. He does not need their help to win his matches, tells them to stay out of his business. And it took me several minutes to realize that they had helped him beat Goldberg last week.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice of them to have a video recap.
I think like an hour in, they finally recapped it, but it took me a long time to figure it out. So Bret comes out for a promo. So he watched the video. Goldberg got screwed last week. Says this belt belongs to Goldberg, and he tosses it down. Sid interrupts. He points out that at Halloween Havoc, Goldberg had won via ref stoppage, and the ref had stopped the match at his discretion, not Sid. Sid never quit. Sid said he heard Goldberg quit, and he will show proof later. Spoiler.
We didn't see that.
He never showed the proof.
I just realized that right now.
Yes.
My favorite is Sid is ranting, and he says, at Halloween Havoc, the ref stopped the match at his own discretion. Then he pauses and says, big word, discretion. We're on our way.
He was bragging.
We are on our way.
By the way, doesn't the ref always stop a match at his own discretion? That's why he's the ref.
Kind of true, yeah. So he lays Brett and his crutches out.
Screw your crippled ass.
Yes. The outsiders saunter out. Sid is not sure whose side they are on, but they hand him the belt. He celebrates with it. I guess he's the U.S. champion again now.
No.
No? All right.
Brett is.
Okay.
They just gave him the belt.
They just gave him the belt.
Yeah.
So the announcers are going over the brackets. And as Brian has warned us for weeks now, Medusa, who lost last week in the first round, is now back in the first round. What's the explanation? What's the cause for putting her back in the tournament? Powers that be wanted to give her another chance.
Well,
Who got bumped?
far be it. I don't know. They never showed us the other side of the bracket.
They
Yeah.
showed it here.
So
But a week
like,
ago, they said they had 32 men, so someone got bumped.
But I think they only showed 16.
yeah, they didn't show the other side of the bracket.
was-
So,
it was-
so we'll never know who that
It was
person
32
was.
men and 16 were mystery men.
Maybe it was John Cena because he didn't qualify.
I'm just going to throw this out there. The Barbarian.
Oh, come on.
Because she beat Ming last week.
Okay, so
Or Ming beat her last week.
far be it from me to defend Russo, but I'm going to explain this Evan Courageous thing, okay? This all stems from the first week when they wanted Medusa to do an evening gown match, and she didn't want to do it.
Correct.
So the first week of the tournament, they punish her by putting her in with Meng.
Right.
Meng kills her. When the match is over, Evan Courageous comes out and gallantly carries her to the back. So this was her next punishment. Now the man that is into her and vice versa, he's got to kick her ass in this tournament. That's the storyline.
This is punishment?
Well, it didn't end up being that way.
I see.
That's their idea.
This has to be in the world title tournament. Why?
It doesn't. We'll get into that. Fear not.
Saturn arrives on a motorcycle with a woman. It's Tori. The Revolution are much better at kidnapping than DX. Tori
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
tries to flee.
Okay, stop right there. Tori tries to flee off of a motorcycle. Are you telling me when they got on the motorcycle, they didn't stop once until they got to the arena?
No.
They never
Are
hit
you
a
kidding
red
me?
light.
From
There was-
last week till right now.
There was not a pedestrian.
What the hell
crossing
kind of
road.
wheelman are you, Craig? You get a bottle, you piss in the bottle, you don't stop till you get where you're going.
Why are you looking at me?
I don't know.
Okay.
Regardless, Asia runs her down, brings her back. Shane warns her things could get kinky.
I'm glad you figured that out because I couldn't hear a word anybody was saying in this segment.
That's the best I could do.
More to come.
First round tournament match, Vampiro versus...
Before that, they replayed the bizarre Macho Man segment last week where Macho Man came out and alerted us that he was going to name a new successor. He was going to pass the torch, and he didn't. This week, they replay that, and he still didn't, and he wasn't on the show. Why was this replayed?
Because he wasn't there.
I don't know. So it's Vampiro versus Berlin. They wrestle for a minute. The Misfits run down in their Nitro
I
debut.
love and hate this Nitro.
It's not boring.
It's so fucking ridiculous. It's horrible, but it's funny. The fuck are the Misfits doing here?
Don't know.
Oh, the clowns are gone.
Bring in another
Get the
band.
fucking Misfits.
Find another band that wears makeup.
Yeah. Oh, okay, here we go.
I guess Kiss wasn't available.
Couldn't afford them.
That's true.
So
They killed the ratings.
they did get. Well, was
They
Kiss
did a
ever on the
horrible
show?
rating.
Yes,
Kiss wasn't the show. I take it back.
Yeah, they played a concert, did a terrible number.
They got edited off the network. Anyway,
These Misfits will outdraw that Kiss.
we'll show Gene.
45 years later.
So, Misfits come out. The ref gets bumped. The bodyguard attacks Vampiro. The Misfits low bridge the bodyguard. Vampiro hits the bodyguard with a chair. Gets kicked coming in. The Misfits. This is all one match.
Yeah.
The Misfits trip Berlin, and then will hold his leg down for the pin.
4 men are holding down the foot of Berlin.
Yeah.
And the fucking ref can't see it.
No.
And it wasn't Patrick.
No. So Vampiro wins. All this happened in 4 minutes and 10 seconds. Berlin.
I can't believe it went that long.
The loser gets to cut a promo. He says, "Screw USA."
Yeah. From now on, he says. From
now on.
Screw the USA.
He's been very patriotic until now.
I was like, yeah, you didn't hate him before. Now you're talking. They got rid of the translator.
Nash and Hall have a meeting backstage.
Oh my God. Allow me to do some of these Nash segments. Nash explains to Hall, you got a match tonight. but I can't go down to the ring with you. I don't have the proper paperwork. But hey, I got an idea. I'll be a promoter instead. Mm-hmm. So apparently he has the paperwork to be a promoter, but not a manager. He's got a plan. Please stand by.
He says, I'll be a promoter like the guy up north with the padded shoulders. Hall asks, are you smoking again? You need some of these.
Again, I never stopped.
Passes him some eye drops and says, you're baked. And Nash ponders the eye drops for about 3 seconds and then raises his head and says, convenient you have this. That was funny.
It gets better, Vinny.
When Nash is funny, he's very funny.
I will give him that.
Yeah.
When he's not funny, he's painfully unfunny. But when he is funny, he's actually really funny.
Let me write this down.
Yeah.
Shane Douglas has Tori Wilson in a cage.
I was howling during this segment.
Let me say this
There's
again.
a fucking cage.
This is something that normal people do all the time at sporting events.
Yes.
Shane Douglas and his wacky gang of revolutions has Tori Wilson in a shark cage.
Yes. Now, if you watch the Tori on WWE on the other channel, or the Nitro Girls, for example, or Kimberly on this show, there's a lot of bad women actors on Nitro and Raw. Tori Wilson is not one of them. From the day that she showed up, she was pretty fucking good. But they lock her in this goddamn cage, and she has to shake the bars and scream, "You're gonna be sorry!" Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. She's in a fucking cage.
Did you catch Shane?
She's trapped
In a cage.
Did you catch Shane Douglas asking her, is this how Billy likes it?
Well, he promised it would be kinky.
Yeah. So Revolution comes out for a promo. They do not bring the cage. They leave the cage backstage. They outright say, we put knives in the filthy animals' tires, so they're going to be late. One of them, I think it was Shane, but it doesn't matter. One of them actually said, quote, we have Tori Wilson locked in a shark cage.
Yes.
Like it's nothing.
Well,
Like, I stopped by the store for a gallon of milk. It's the exact same delivery.
Honesty is the best policy. You know that one, Rob? Okay.
You know that one. Thank you.
So Saturn challenges Eddie. Says, we'll take the key of the shark cage hanging on a pole.
Excuse me, a pole?
A key on a pole match.
You're telling me there's a pole match?
Yeah. Saturn then says, if you win, we'll let Tori go.
Tori
go. If I win, he actually said this, I scale her.
Yes.
Now,
You mean like scaffolding or?
I thought because a shark cage is making a fish reference.
I thought it was a
Sure.
fish reference.
Even though sharks don't have scales.
Sure, yeah.
All right.
Like, did no one clear this with him before?
I mean, he's not a marine biologist.
That's
I
for sure.
scale her, he says. So Dean cuts a promo on Benoit.
Oh my God. Dean Malenko
Yes.
cuts a promo referencing his own penis.
Yeah.
It gets zero reaction from the crowd. They do not think that this is cool.
No.
It's Dean Malenko talking about his own cock. He calls Benoit a puss. He vows to cripple his ass tonight. Benoit comes out. He announces tonight it is himself versus Dean Malenko in a cage match. If you watch these shows after you listen to us, please observe Dean Malenko's reaction to Chris Benoit announcing it's a cage match as he looks up at the ceiling and he looks back at Benoit and then he dramatically looks up at the ceiling again. It was amazing.
So yes, Dean says to Benoit, I got your friendship right here, points at his Johnson, and think back to your high school parties and all your high school friends, and eventually, maybe before high school, junior high, the parents would show up to pick everybody up. Think of the lamest dad among your group of friends.
That's absolutely right, Vinny.
That's exactly what Dean Malenko was here.
That was a great analogy. That's exactly what this was.
Trying to act cool and failing so badly.
But like, even if the most geeky dad showed up and said something like that, you'd at least have some people groaning. It was so bad.
Yes.
This crowd was dead silent.
This crowd was just shamed to be there. We see the back of Kevin Nash's head as the makeup artist is discussing his big Irish nose they're putting on and the cleft chin. And we hear Nash say, looks like a winner, Pally. Filthy animals arrive. So their gimmick is they're basically a DX knockoff. But It's Conan. Kidman's always wearing the same jeans and wife beater every week, but Conan and Ray look like they're dressed for a rap video. And he walks in a nice sweater, ready to lead a lecture in history class or something. A security guard with a hell of a mullet stops him, says, "Sorry, I can't let you in without passes." They're such non-stars that they can't even get into Nitro just on facial recognition.
See how Kidman's dressed?
Fair. So they beat up the security guard. Mike Tenay interviews Kimberly. They're standing front and center. Kimberly's in what for her, I guess, would be street clothes. They're surrounded by the Nitro girls who are all in their gear. And Tenay asks about DDP's condition after David Flair hit him with a crowbar repeatedly.
D. Flair.
D. Flair. So she says Paige has a chipped collarbone. Cracked.
What?
Yeah.
A chipped collarbone?
She said.
The fuck?
He's got a cracked sternum and cracked ribs. I don't know when he'll be back. And she gathers the Nitro girls and announces it's time to walk away. And then she walks away.
Yeah. I have more important business to take care of right now. Dancing will have to be put on the back burner.
In a first-round tournament match to determine the next WCW heavyweight champion of the world, the Cat wrestled Lash LaRue.
Okay, I got a serious question here, all right? No offense to the guy. What was with Vince Russo and Lash LaRue?
It's a great question.
Russo shows up, and all of a sudden, Lash LaRue is somebody. Of all the guys on the roster, Lash LaRue?
He's got those sideburns.
Yeah.
Dude.
It looks like an L.
I literally looked up.
Well, one of them does.
I looked down, I wrote these words. Lash,
Like a J.
one of those random guys that Russo loved. I looked back up, and the match was over.
Yes.
Lash had submitted Shat somehow. Some sort of hold.
The Cat, who was wearing his magic dancing shoes to start now, he appeared to blow out his knee running the corners. And he went down, and Lash put him in something like an Indian deathlock, and Cat tapped out immediately.
This is the worst tournament ever.
I know this.
This is the one that makes you say that?
No, just overall the tournament. Like, this is the one that I just snapped.
I know this has been said many times, but this is a true statement. They blew every spot they tried.
Well, there was only three.
One.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
it was literally every spot.
It ain't like
one.
Avalanche versus Big Wood, where they got some time.
The spot was run to the corner.
Yes.
Take a corner.
They blew it.
This was the only legitimate finish in the entire first round of the tournament,
Oh, my God.
where one person beat the other person on purpose without run-ins.
Fuck me. God, it's horrible.
Mike Tenay interviews Bret. Bret Hart, for the second and then the third time in his career, refers to Sid as a big, stupid dummy.
I love it.
It's so perfect.
I love it.
Why did they didn't feud for a year so we can set it every week? The Nitro girls have a huddle.
Oh, my God. Okay, so if you weren't listening, Kimberly had to step away from the Nitro girls. She has more important business to deal with now. Okay? Kimberly. The Nitro girls, they're all standing there together. And they say, "We can do this." Apparently there was concern that without Kimberly, they could not dance. I'm mocking this. It's so dumb.
I should hope so.
And then, moments later, they all start arguing about who is in charge of the Nitro girls. Okay.
They lasted 30 seconds without Kim's supervision.
Yes. I know that, like, one of the things that people like about Vince Russo fans, is that he gave everybody a story. Dude.
That's the problem.
The fucking Nitro girls didn't need a fucking story. They just had to go out there and dance. Now, they're feuding with each other.
No. Only
They don't know what they're doing.
Only AC Jazz
On this show, Craig.
and Spice. Do you know AC Jazz's dad was electrocuted? Did you know that? And that is a callback.
I love Craig.
So disgusted.
All right. The next segment's even weirder. I watched this 6 hours ago, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. The Filthy Animals are making some voyeur porn. They are peeping.
This so would not fly in 2018. This is the funniest segment I've ever seen in my life.
Billy Kidman has a camcorder. Now, for you youngsters, this is a device that we had in the late 90s to record video files, sometimes on actual videotape, I think. It's much larger than any phone you've ever seen or any tablet you've ever seen. This was necessary to record video and audio in the late 90s. So he's sticking this giant thing into Lex Luger's locker room door.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to believe Lex and Liz can't see it.
No, it's not only that. He sticks it in the door and he loudly says, "Hey, guys, she's about to take her clothes off."
Yeah. So we get the video. It is not Liz taking her clothes off. It's Lex flexing. Liz being worried about the tournament brackets. He tells her there's nothing to worry about. Then he sees the brackets. He flips out, tells her to take care of it. He goes off on a tirade about how it's her job to take care of this kind of thing. Asks her what she's going to do. And says, "Well, Liz." And there's a pause. And she starts repeating. This is where I don't know if this is supposed to happen or not.
It wasn't. They were supposed to cut when he says, "What are we going to do about it?"
Yeah. But he says, "Well, Liz. Well, Liz. Well, Liz. Well." They both start laughing. Liz picks up a can of soda.
Yes.
She drinks and smiles and looks right into Billy Kidman's voyeur cam. Then they cut to a camera in the hallway where we now see a production guy on the floor letting them know the segment is over as Billy Kidman is filming him with the camera.
Unbelievable.
So my first reaction was...
to start crying and reach for tissues. That's what my reaction was.
An incomprehensibly incompetent segment. I can't...
That's what this was! Vinny, let me tell you something.
The nugget in my brain that says Vince Russo always wants us to question what's going on.
No. Later in the show, there is a segment with Luger and Sting where Luger tries to convince Sting to fight for the tag titles. Do you remember this?
I do.
Okay. If you watch the segment, it is absolutely silent for a moment, and then the audio starts, okay? Mm-hmm. Because live, you hear a guy go, "Action!"
Sure.
So the WWE Network, they turned the volume down when he yelled "action," okay? Apparently, either they thought this was fucking the most hilarious thing they'd ever seen, or they didn't even realize what was happening when they watched it, because they left all of this in. Luger is cracking up Liz. She starts laughing, and then they go to the fucking guy, and the announcers see all of this.
Yes.
And they have to just say, "Huh."
The funny thing is, they had to ramble on whatever for a long time.
Yes.
So if anything, this may have ended early.
Yeah.
This will see more shots of the guy in the hallway. So yeah, welcome to Nitro 1999, everybody.
And by the way, on top of all of that, the audio and video were not synced up.
No. Well, for the most part, I could at least attribute that to maybe Kidman had a shitty camera. Because we were looking at his camera as he was recording. And Brian's not buying this.
No.
Well,
Vinny.
at the end of the show, they did have the thing where the disclaimer came up, this has been saved from the best we could,
There were legit technical problems
Yes.
later in the show.
Yeah, but live, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Scott Steiner highlight video. And then
God.
Larry Zbyszko goes to interview Scott in what can only assume is the Steiner household.
Does anybody remember when Larry Zbyszko was on Figure 4 Daily many years ago?
Oh, yeah.
And all of the crazy crackpot theories he had about everything?
I do.
All he has to do is ask Scott Steiner a couple of questions, like,
About his injuries.
tell me about your back injury, tell me about the surgery. But it's Larry Zbyszko, so he has to begin a question by saying, "Not that I believe every doctor's diagnosis, but what did the doctor tell you?" I was like, fuck, dude. Just ask the fucking questions. Scott's all humble.
I like that this is in Scott's house and they had at least 3 cameras just to do this stupid little back and forth sit-down interview.
He's much smaller, looks all pilled up.
Mm-hmm.
Said he had to avoid surgery, wanted to avoid surgery, but the pain kept coming back. Finally had to undergo it. 3 ruptured discs.
Gosh.
Yeah, he's can do nothing for 21 days, he says. Try to walk. Lay on my back a lot. Mm-hmm. And then he will go into extensive rehab. And 8 to 10 weeks later, doctor will hopefully give him good news. He prays he can come back. But to be honest, he says, I don't feel very good right now. And that was it. He's crossing his fingers. This was so real.
Yeah.
And
It was a Scott Rick Steiner.
keep in mind, he comes back.
Yeah.
And it ain't that long.
No.
Because he's killing Tank Abbott here in a while.
I am assuming that this was, and we'll see how it goes, and maybe I've forgotten this, but I am assuming they're trying to mimic the Bagwell thing, where he got sympathy for all the injuries he had, and then comes back and just snaps and kills people in
It's
evil
the
person
exact
again.
same storyline.
That's my point.
Wow.
I don't know. I could be wrong. I know he turns out he's wrestling again and he's mean. That part I remember.
Yeah.
The Nitro girls are doing their dance. In the middle of the dance, AC, Jazz, and Spice begin to brawl, and then to the back.
Oh my God, the to the backs on this show.
There's one
Unbelievable.
Later. We'll get to it. But
Oh, yeah.
The to the back Hall of Fame has a new entrant. Tenay interviews Buff. Buff promises the powers won't knock him to the bottom of the Titanic. He says, like, Buff 2, Riders 0, or something. I don't know what he's talking about. We see the back of Kevin Nash's head in a wig. He says, burn the bridge. I'm blowing it up. Ha ha ha. See you out there, pally. The Nitro Girls brawl backstage. Now, in addition to not having every character in the show needing to have something going on and needing to go back to it in 5 segments, don't have people who are not trained to be fake combatants try to do a fake brawl.
This was beyond horrible. It was so bad, this fight that AC, Jazz, and Spice had. I could not believe my eyes. I mean, I could.
All right, this fucking thing.
Okay. Dude. First off, it's Buff Bagwell versus Stevie Ray.
Sure is.
And before the match, it is announced that the powers that be have signed this to be a strap match.
Stevie makes the announcement.
Yes.
Stevie comes out with a strap and says, I'm just here. It's nothing personal. I got to do my business. This is now a strap match.
Yeah.
Buff blames this on the writers in the back. The match goes 2 minutes and 9 seconds.
It went that long?
I timed it.
Wow.
Buff, as soon as Buff takes over, Creative Control, which is the Bald Harris twins, they attack for the disqualification.
Well, Vinny,
They tried to attack.
the
They
apparent
missed.
the apparent disqualification.
I stand corrected. They're disqualified due to failed interference. Buff runs away to avoid a disqualification in a strap match. I don't even know how that happened.
Yeah, how do you get
It's like,
unstrapped?
he's strapped to the guy. What happened?
I don't know.
At this point, I wrote -1 star. Then
What? Being generous.
the ring announcer is saying, due to interference, and they cut to the back in the middle of the announcement.
Yes.
And then I wrote -2 stars. That
They
pissed me off so bad.
they went to the back and did not tell us who won a match in a world title tournament.
I'm sitting...
This is not just some shit match on Nitro.
No.
Well,
The
yes, it
world
is.
title. I mean, it is. The world title's on the fucking line. You can't allow them to make the announcement before you go to the back. Are you kidding me?
There were probably people at home filling in their brackets.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And had nothing to write there. I'm sitting this afternoon in my house. It's me alone. I was watching Nitro on my computer. It's very quiet. And when they go to the back in the middle of this announcement, I shout, "What?" My cats jump up. They have been peacefully sleeping. Like, this show's so bad, it makes me make a spectacle when I'm alone. And what was so important? What was so critical that we had to go to the back?
Well, actually, this makes storyline sense. It was Jeff Jarrett.
At the end, it does. Jarrett denies attacking Liz last week or the week before, or whatever. He demands an apology from Lex Luger for this accusation. That's it. Brian, you want to talk about Kevin Nash?
Well, this wasn't the best one, but he comes out as Vince McMahon costume.
He comes out as undead Vince McMahon.
Nobody knows.
The fake skin's peeling off. I think because of his beard, it couldn't all stay on.
Nobody had any idea. You know what he looked like? He looked like a cross between Sid and Diesel.
That's fair.
A little bit.
Yeah,
That's what he looked like.
Looked like Fred Gwynn of the Munsters.
Kinda, yeah.
Remember when he
Herman.
at the end of Monster Brawl when he comes out all in the zombie makeup?
Yes.
That's what he looked like.
The fans chant asshole. He says, "Don't
No.
call me that. You're that."
No, they didn't. He made it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they weren't chanting that.
Oh, that's cool.
He reacted to chants that were not there and tried to start them with minimal success.
So it's hilariously awful. He calls out Hall. Hall cuts a promo. I'm ready for the match. And then they just went away. What?
Some of Kevin Nash's lines as Vince were, "I can push him as a babyface until the fans regurgitate him." Well, accurate. He then introduces his biggest star, the toughest SOB in wrestling, the trouser snake, Scott Hall.
Yep. This one was more of a miss.
Somewhere in here,
Not gonna lie.
His wig fell off. Hall.
Yeah, he didn't have the common decency to tuck his ponytail into the back of his sports jacket.
Yeah.
So he literally looked like he was wearing a Davy Crockett hat.
Yes. Hall says he cannot afford to burn another bridge up north. He says he's on strike 3 here. Basically, if he gets drunk again, they're going to fire him. But he says, shoot with me, he says. Who picks out your clothes? Do you shop at Jacques Penet? That made me laugh. Like I say, when they're funny, they're actually funny. And then they had a crotch shop for the boys in New York. Lex Luger and Elizabeth met with Ming.
So awesome. I love Ming.
I love Lex, actually. This Lex Luger character he's so douchey and so pretentious and so full of himself and so completely not so disrespectable, unrespectable. They stooge off Jarrett, who hadn't actually done anything. They say, Jarrett insulted you. He shattered the island boy myth. He's so offensive, they say. He's even passing out bananas. And they pass a banana to Meng, and Meng is so outraged he eats the entire banana, peel and all. Just swallows it whole.
I have a better Ming interview for you.
Today, Scott Hudson, I thank you, gentlemen. Coming up a week from tomorrow night, Halloween Havoc, spectacular card. I say a showcase event. Indeed, it is that. You can be part of it. Call your local cable company right now regarding availability. Ming, come on in, the big man from Tonga. Come on. A week from tomorrow night, you and Raph. Now, here's a man that perhaps is equal to you. The fact that he is 6'7", 6'8", and weighs well over 300 pounds should be a great contest.
Talaga, ref. Wait a
minute. We are in America, please. You can speak English. You've been here long enough. We all know that. Now you're speaking Japanese. As friends, let's talk English.
Voulez-vous?
Now that's French.
Bonjour.
Please, Wrath is a big man. He's right now sizing you up because it's his biggest match to date here in World Championship Wrestling, Ming. Wait a minute. Am I going to get any English out of you here tonight or not? You understand, adios?
Adios.
Thank you very much, Ming. Wrath, 1 week from tomorrow.
He's the best. He's the best.
How did Gene keep a straight face to that?
Because he's a Hall of Famer. That's how.
Professional.
Mike today interviews Kurt Hennig. Hennig vows that not only is he going to avoid a pin and avoid retirement, he's going to win this tournament and win that title. First round tournament match, Kurt Hennig versus Disco Inferno.
Finally. This was awesome. Larry the Axe Hennig's in the front row. Everybody knows the Axe. Hennig beats the shit out of Disco Inferno. He chops the shit out of him. He clubbers him all over the place. The Axe holds Disco. Hennig chops him. And then fans are chanting for Larry, so Hennig holds Disco and Larry punches him out. Fans boo like crazy when the Disco Inferno takes over. And then Tony Mamaluke comes out. Disco just stops wrestling.
When you say stops wrestling, Disco has Kurt behind him and is grabbing his head. He's about to hit his chart buster.
He's about to win.
His finish and win and advance in this tournament.
The world title's on the line.
Where the winner gets the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yep.
But Tony Mamaluke is here.
He just walks out of the ring. Mm-hmm. Fans booed like crazy. Kurt Hennig wins via countout. Mm-hmm. He does not yet have to retire. I loved the match until the shitty finish.
It's actually shocking because they were in Minnesota. If they were looking for a time to do it, this would be it.
If they want heat.
Eddie promises to run rings around Saturn and bring Tori home.
Get it?
Yeah.
I didn't actually until right now. When I read it. Then I realized, oh, rings, yeah. Norman
Nothing
Smiley.
Gets by you.
No. I pay maybe 25% attention to these shows. Norman Smiley has baseball catcher's gear on. Kevin Nash, after his promo, still has the makeup on and is still imitating Vince. I'm getting into character. Get it? Ha ha ha. All right. Barbarian versus Meng versus Norman Smiley. First thought, this would have been so much better without Norman and the weapons. And just let Barbarian.
What in the fuck was this match? Meng versus Barbarian versus Norman Smiley?
Yeah.
And then, like, I get the joke. Norman is a coward who's scared of everything, and he's out there in a catcher's outfit. Okay? Haha. Can this be 1 minute? No.
No.
This fucking match goes on and on and on. The classic, let's make sure it's funny, then we'll keep going until it's not funny. Then we'll keep going longer until you're sick of it, and then we'll keep going even further. Just goes on fucking forever. And finally, Norman gets stretchered out, gets halfway up the ramp. I guess he notices that somehow Meng and Barbarian were down. I don't even know what happened.
He could see the big screen. I could see that, but we couldn't tell what was on the big screen, and there was nothing to see that was in the ring.
What the hell happened? Meng and
Suddenly-
Barbarian, all of a sudden Barbarian's on his back and Meng's giving him head.
Excuse me?
Well,
Am I wrong?
Meng's face was buried in Barbarian's
I'm
crotch.
guessing they bonked heads, Meng hit the ropes, and then fell down onto the crotch of Barbarian.
So the gimmick is they both have unbreakable heads, and the finish is they bonked heads and knocked each other out.
Yeah.
That's the best guess. Norman sees this. He runs back. He pins Barbarian. Meng just lies there with his face in the ball bearing's crotch. To the back!
Oh, fuck. To the back for Jarrett. He's going out to get his apology.
It was Jarrett or Hacksaw?
Oh, it was Jarrett first. He's going to get his apology. Then they go to Duggan.
Okay, got it. There were times here where my notes were all cattywampus. So now Hacksaw Duggan in a suit, pleads for an opportunity. Creative Control laughs at him. Russo buries him, but promises to think about giving him an opportunity.
Duggan was so good here. He goes, I've been wrestling for 20 years. I have more fan support than a lot of the young kids out there doing drop kicks. Last year I got cancer. By the grace of God, they took out my kidney. I know I have the heart, the fan support, and the desire to really do something here for this company. Vince Russo says, I don't care if you have 1, 2, 3, or 4 kidneys. What does it have to do with ratings? All I care about is ratings. I'll think about it. Duggan has to walk off. This was a week, by the way, that Russo was on WCW Live and said, I will never show my face on WCW television. See how long it takes.
Kevin Nash jokes that if Sid gets screwed, it won't be because he screwed Sid. It'll be because Sid screwed Sid.
Okay, tell me what happens here, Vinny, because all I wrote down is, Luger is being all weird backstage with Ming.
You're not wrong.
What happened?
He meets with Ming, says that was a hell of a bump you took. Jarrett's going to do an interview later. Make sure you pay attention. Jarrett did an interview right now. He demands an apology from Luger. He says, this is not the WWF. We do not abuse women. So Lex comes out. He actually does apologize. Jarrett notes, again, I do not get physical with women anymore.
Well, it's funny because Luger just comes out and says, you know what? You're right. I don't know who hit Liz with a guitar. And it could be anybody. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's what he said. That's almost a quote.
So, unlike wrestling.
Yeah, well, there was a plot here.
There was a plot.
And Jarrett fell into Lex Luger's trap, if you can imagine such a thing. Lex says,
I can't.
I don't know who hit Liz, but I heard a rumor. It could have been Meng. This makes Jarrett angry for reasons I don't know.
That giant ape?
That giant ape. It took him a day and a half to take down 50-year-old Medusa, he says. And they cut back to Lex, who, in character, is trying not to laugh. Because he knows Jarrett has just taken the bait. And you got to picture the Nitro ramp, right? It's not like the current Raw where when they come on a stage, they come up from like around the corner. There's the guy on stage, and behind him is just darkness. And from out of the shadows, from out of the void, comes a charging, spitting, snarling, angry Meng, running as fast as he can. He blows by Lex. Jarrett flees the ring, but he still calls Meng a slapnuts and a big wuss.
I'd forgotten about slab nuts.
He leaves.
Get ready.
It's going to be a lot of it. So Liz and Lex hit the ring. Liz says, Meng, you really know how to come to the aid of a woman. Then she maces him, and Lex beats him up with a tire iron, which apparently is all over the backstage area of Nitro these days. Everyone's got one.
You can get them in your cars, you know.
or rental cars, yeah. The Animals are getting ready for their match backstage. Kidman says he really misses Tori, if you know what I mean. He's 1% cooler than Dean.
I hate to be crude, but she was fucking kidnapped.
Yes.
And he's concerned that he has not been able to fuck her for a week.
Yes.
That's literally what he said in this promo.
Yeah.
She's been fucking kidnapped. She's in a shark cage right now.
Somewhere.
That's the first thing you're thinking about here?
Yes, his side piece is gone. So the outsiders try to meet with Sid. They knock on his door. He won't answer. Nash in his Vince voice says something about Pally. He knocks on the door. And then they freeze. And like 6 seconds go by. And it fades to black. That was funny.
Yeah.
They made fun of the awkward pause.
Yes.
Lex wants to team with Sting and chase the tag titles. Sting has zero interest in being the World Tag Team Champions.
I'm not sure why Sting was there this week.
That's actually a fair question.
This is where the guy yelled action, by the way.
This is the action segment, yes. So eventually, Lex badgers Sting until Sting, to get Lex off his back, says, whatever, Lex. He gets up and he walks out. So now it's fine. Fine, Sting says. I will contend for the World Tag Team Championship. Could you have buried these belts anymore? Eddie Guerrero versus Saturn in a key to a shark cage on a pole match.
Yes.
As the ring announcer said, quote, the winner gets to decide Tori Wilson's future.
Yep. Her future.
Her future.
She'll be in that shark cage until she's dead if they don't win this match.
So the winner's like, okay, well, she could be a cocktail waitress for about 3 years. And then... No?
What are you talking about?
Well, I guess
they have this shitty match, everybody. The key is low enough that Eddie could just grab it, but he has to pretend like he's too short.
He couldn't grab it. He was trying for real and couldn't make it.
No, he reaches up and it's like, if he reached 1 inch further, he would have got that stupid key. Come on.
Took him 10 attempts to shitty the pole. He had to jump
the
for it
pole
at the
gimmick
finish.
was, here's the thing. The storyline was when he tried to climb the pole, he couldn't because the heels had greased the pole. Okay? The problem is, why would you fucking grease the pole if you were the heel? You can't fucking climb either.
I don't know.
Doesn't even make any sense. Finally just jumped off, got the key, and they won.
I like
that was a payoff to this feud, by the way.
So the Animals and the Revolution are all out there. At one point, Eddie goes up top. Shane goes and knocks him off. The Animals are right there. They don't do a goddamn thing. Later, Saturn he's on the top rope. Instead of grabbing the key, he just climbs back down. I have no idea what's happening. Eddie pushes Saturn into the cage. Tori, from inside the cage, reaches through with some kind of strap and starts choking Saturn.
Where was that?
Somewhere in her costume.
Okay.
I don't know, purse. I don't know.
Sure.
So Shane Douglas, who earlier had been right where Saturn is and climbed up and knocked Eddie up the top rope, now he's trapped on the other side of the cage and can't get around. And he's grabbing the cage. What are you doing? Let him go! And then Eddie goes up and he can't reach the thing and he slides down the pole a few times and he jumps and grabs it.
All right, we got to keep moving here, dude. We're an hour and 20 minutes into this fucking show.
Tori hits the ring and hugs all her men.
Okay, so Hall and Nash are backstage with Sid. And Sid is sitting down and he's fuming. And Hall and Nash are on the couch and they're trying to explain something to Sid.
You gotta trust me.
And I wrote down exactly what Sid said. I still don't understand it, but I'm going to try and recreate it, okay? So he's fuming. He's just red. He's starting to shake with rage. Hall and Nash are trying to tell him to just trust them. And suddenly, Sid stands up at the top of his lungs, screams, "The last time I trusted you 2 years ago, my career has been in the shitter!" Then he sits down, and Hall and Nash are trying so hard not to laugh, and they go, "Just calm down, big guy."
What happened, Brian?
It's the whole segment.
Okay, what happened was Sid actually believed this was Vince McMahon.
Yes.
Now he gets it.
He didn't get it until now. So he jumped up to rage at Vince, and Kevin Nash, to protect himself, pulls back the wig a little bit to reveal it's not Vince. I'm Kevin Nash.
He has to go into the Hall of Awesome. I will not stand for him not going in after this show.
Remember when I said Brian doesn't get jokes?
Vinny.
There we go.
I was laughing so hard at Sid's outrage that I wasn't even paying attention to anything else here.
I see.
Unlike the next segment, where... Anyway. Come on, Vinny. He's got to go in. Let's just make it official.
Sid's in the Hall of Awesome.
Sid is in the Hall of Awesome.
I thought he was already.
No, you backed off last week.
All right, Sid's in the Hall of Awesome.
Fuck, he deserves it. We should rename it the Sid. I can't take it away from Matt Cleary.
No, you can't.
Yes.
Today interviews a total package, says he will face either Meng or Sting in the tournament next week. This is why he hit Meng with a crowbar earlier. All Package wants to talk about is the tag titles. How dare you try to stir dissension, he says. Well, I'm focused on the World Tag Team Championships that Sting and I are going to win. So it's the Filthy Animals versus Sting in the Total Package. Tony realizes Lex has some kind of plot. He's not up to no good, and he says, I smell a rat. And Bobby Heenan says, are you calling Elizabeth a rat? I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed. Bobby Heenan, not giving a fuck, is the best. So, this match is awesome. Did I mention earlier how great this version of Lex is? Lex's gimmick is he comes out with the dramatic music, he stands in the ring, Liz peels off his clothing, and he starts to flex. But he didn't get to do this because the Filthy Animals jumped Sting and are double teaming him in the corner. So Sting fights them off and he turns around, and Lex is miffed at Sting. That is awesome. So they do a pose down with Kidman. That was funny. Lex very quickly blows out his knee in a leapfrog, just like the cat did earlier. Tags out. So now we got Sting, who suddenly is a babyface.
I'm pretty sure Sting is a babyface again.
There are very few babyfaces in the show. It's like Goldberg, Benoit, and as of right now, Sting. That may be the end of the list. So Sting runs wild. Everyone's going crazy. And then 2 minutes later, the Animals just attack for the DQ. And they beat Sting. Lex sells his knee. Eventually they leave, and Sting's on to Lex because he's a babyface. He's smart again. So he shoves him down.
Okay. So we're backstage again. And Hall and Sid are talking. And they're discussing their plan for the evening because they have to wrestle each other. And Kevin Nash is still got his Vince costume on, but he's sitting on the couch and he's just kind of leaning way back, and he's barely paying attention.
That's how I do the show.
And Hall says, all right, Sid, just touch me. I'll go down. Cover me. 1, 2, 3. Just like we did with the broads last week. I've got nothing more to prove in this business. And Sid listens to his plan and he says, Nash, what are you thinking? And Nash is leaning back on the couch. He's barely paying attention. All of a sudden he just goes, I was actually sitting here thinking of doing these little skits all day and basically burning every bridge I had in this business. And I guess I'm stuck here having no negotiating power. But you're on the team, right? I cried with laughter at that line. I cried with laughter. I rewound it like 15 times. I transcribed every little thing that Kevin Nash said. That was the funniest thing that he's ever done in his entire career. Outside of now, I got to go back and watch the last Sid one again. That one may have been funnier. That was so good. Sid is trying so hard not to laugh at this. Hall doesn't give a fuck. That's segment. Then we have a long, awkward pause, and they go away. That was golden. That was golden. I would almost put Nash in the Hall of Awesome for that, but I just can't do it.
Good.
We have more Nash on Nitro to watch before you make that decision. Right?
Oh, it was so good.
Sting's backstage looking for the Filthy Animals. First round tournament match, Booker T versus Jeff Jarrett. They brawl. Jarrett jumps in the aisle. They brawl on the floor. Creative Control comes out. Booker comes back. He fights off Creative Control. Jarrett hits him with a guitar and pins him. The ref counts 3. There's not even like scraps of guitar. There's giant chunks of guitar. Like there's like almost a whole guitar just floating in the ring. The ref doesn't care. He just counts 3.
We got 6 minutes to finish this review.
Goldberg interview from the Ready to Rumble set.
Which they called Slam.
Mm-hmm. He promises the Outsiders and Sid made a mistake letting him live. He'll get him out of the business for good. The Nitro Girls are brawling again.
Yes.
When Kevin Nash shows up, says, let's save this for pay-per-view. Ha ha ha. Mike Tenay interviews Evan Courageous about Medusa. She's just hot, he says.
he was so hilariously awkward. Just pretty, happy young fella. I'm so excited to be in this tournament. I've never wrestled a woman before. No disrespect, but she's hot. I hope we can still be friends afterwards. And he gets a big smile. Yeah!
He actually did. Tenay interviews Medusa, who says, you're back in the tournament, but once again, your opponent is a member of the opposite sex. No shit! It's a men's championship.
Right.
You're going to fight a lot of men. Medusa says the powers that be are getting a kick out of seeing her wrestle boys, but they should never underestimate her. We had a first round tournament match with Medusa versus Evan Courageous.
This is one of those things where, like, in a vacuum, what they did here was, like, really good. Medusa tried to seduce him. He tried to seduce her. Finally, she falls on him. She starts making out with him. He gets pinned. She has put one over on the writers by screwing them, by screwing him.
Yeah.
It was all great, but this is a tournament match for the World Heavyweight Championship. That's complete bullshit.
Not to be confused with the tournament to declare who's the best in the world.
It's true. We don't know if the world champion is the best in the world.
The other point, Brian, is this is a tournament match where we are 15 matches in now, and there's been one clean finish.
That's true. Now, two.
These weren't matches.
I guess technically this is a clean finish.
This is a clean finish.
All right.
These were angles disguised as matches. That's all this was.
In the final, I stand corrected, the second to last, I miscounted. First round tournament match, Chris Benoit versus Dean Malenko inside a steel cage.
Yes, my favorite part of this match. They're beating the shit out of each other in the steel cage. Finally, Douglas throws a chain to Malenko. Saturn, whoever. The point is, it's a chain.
Yeah. You're surrounded by a cage.
It's a fucking chain link cage, but the chain is the dangerous thing.
Right.
He KOs him, headbutt off the top of the cage. Diving headbutt looks so awesome until you think about the state of Benoit's brain when he died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, this was the one good match in the first round of the tournament. And by good, I mean 2.5 stars.
It was
4.5 minutes.
By their standards, poor.
That's probably true.
By everyone else's standards, it was the best match in the tournament so far.
So
The most run-ins in the history of a match, though.
True.
Of a cage match, for sure. So the Revolution attacks Benoit. The Filthy Animals make the save. David Flair's out there. Sting! What the fuck?
Fuck if I know. He wants to get his baseball
I'm just going to read
bat
this whole
back.
thing. Revolution attacks Benoit. Filthy Animals save. David Flair attacks him with crowbar. Sting leaves out Conan. Flair frees Benoit. Jesus Christ. And then I wrote, I am so tired. No fucking wonder. David Flair is leaving the building when his stuntman is hit by Kimberly in a car.
That's right.
Kevin Nash is now laid out. Hall is calling for help, but he still goes out for his match. Sid versus Scott Hall, the last match of the first round. They do the finger poke, but when Sid goes to cover him, Hall cradles him and goes for the pin, but Sid kicks out, and they have the most boring match. Sid just clubbers
Better
him.
boring than terrible.
I don't know.
Why didn't he just pin him with a small package?
I don't know.
He kicked out.
That would have been better.
So, let's see. Brett comes out, hits Sid with a crutch. He goes after Hall. Hall flees, gets back to the ring and pins Sid, and now runs away. And then Hall leaves with the U.S. title.
Yeah, he stole the belt that Sid had stolen that Brett owns.
So officially, Brett is the champion.
Yes.
Brett considers Goldberg the champion.
Yes.
Sid considered himself the champion. I guess now
Yes.
Hall considers himself. Skull. I can fuck it.
Just quit.
Hear my music.
Don't mind if I do.
A little better than me.
The finishes on this terrible show, this wonderfully terrible show, were pin after all sorts of interference, clean submission, DQ due to run in a strap match, count out when a guy just leaves in a world title tournament match, pin in a three-way after a fake injury, key pulled off of pole, DQ due to run in, pin after interference and guitar shot, pin via kiss, pin after crutch shot.
At the end of the day, if your goal is to make money in wrestling and sell pay-per-views and try to get people to go to house shows, this is the fucking dumbest show of all time. If you just want to be entertained in a hilariously wonderful, awful way, as Vinny said, this show is a winner. Pretty much all I can say about it.
I was never bored.
I was never bored.
The Sid match at the end, I was bored.
It's the stupidest tournament of all time.
Yes.
I mean, we're only in the first round.
Yes, 16 matches, 10 matches with run-ins, 6 matches with foreign objects in the finish.
Oh, yikes. Hideous. And still much more to go. All right, we're out of here, everybody. Lance, I want to thank you for doing the show today. And usually you wait so you can listen to the show, but now you've already heard it, so I apologize for that. Maybe it's better the second time. Maybe there'll be stuff you didn't hear that first time around. But thanks for doing it, and we're out of here. We'll be back tomorrow. Observer Live, Wrestling Observer Radio. Don't forget to check out video.f4wonline.com if you want video versions of all of the Brian and Vinny shows. And that is it. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Adios.